The auction hall stretched beneath Kepler Station's atmospheric dome, a cathedral of chrome and crystalline glass where the galaxy's elite gathered to purchase the extraordinary. Genesis stood at the back of the crowd, her worn flight jacket, a stark contrast to the shimmering robes and biotech suits of the assembled dignitaries. She had no business being here, not really. But Jackson had insisted. "Trust me," he'd said through their comlink, his voice crackling from the cargo bay where he prepped their battered freighter. "Something's happening today that you need to see." The Drakari auctioneer's scales rippled with bioluminescent patterns as she gestured toward the holding pen. 3 dragon hatchlings huddled in the corner, the fabled star serpents of Pyro's prime. Creatures capable of surviving in the vacuum of space, whose adult forms could navigate fold space with organic precision. Empires rose and fell on the strength of dragon-bonded fleets, but these 3 were wrong. The first hatchling's wings were asymmetrical, one smaller than the other. The second possessed eyes that glowed different colors, one amber, one violet. The third scales had no uniform pattern, a chaotic swirl of silver and obsidian where proud crimson should have been. "Flawed genetics," the auctioneer announced, her voice carrying disappointment that transcended species. "Unsuitable for bonding, unsuitable for racing, unsuitable for, well, any purpose recognized by the Galactic Dragon Registry." Genesis felt something tighten in her chest. The Vexian ambassador departed first, his entourage following in a rustle of diplomatic robes. The Centauri merchant lords were next, muttering about wasted time. One by one, the crowd thinned. Dragons were precious, yes, but flawed dragons. They were an embarrassment, a genetic dead end. In a galaxy that prized perfection and utility, these hatchlings had no value. "We'll have to dispose of them humanely, of course," the auctioneer continued, her tone suggesting this was an unfortunate but necessary conclusion. Genesis pushed through the remaining observers. "Wait." The word came out softer than she intended, but it carried through the hall like a thunderclap. Every being turned to stare at the human in the shabby jacket, the one who didn't belong. "I'll take them," Genesis said, louder this time. The auctioneer's expression cycled through confusion, amusement, and finally, pity. "Human, these creatures cannot be sold at standard rates. They have no bond potential. They'll never be able to. I'll take them," Genesis repeated. All 3 a Drakari noble laughed, the sound like grinding stones. "The human doesn't understand. These hatchlings are defective. They're worthless." Genesis met his eyes. Humans had learned early in their galactic debut that they were considered the universe's ultimate underdogs. No scales, no telepathy, no natural weapons, just stubborn, ridiculous optimism and a refusal to accept anyone else's definition of worthless. "How much?" she asked. The auctioneer's scales flickered. "The disposal fee would normally be, I'm not paying you to kill them, I'm paying you to let me take them. Name your price." The figure the auctioneer quoted was almost nothing less than Genesis paid for fuel on a bad run. She transferred the credits immediately. Ignoring the muttering around her, Jackson met her at the cargo bay, his dark eyes widening as he saw what she was carrying. The 3 hatchlings clung to Genesis, their small claws gripping her jacket, their crystalline eyes watching everything with desperate hope. "Jen, what did you do?" "What we always do," she said, settling the hatchlings into the padded nest Jackson had somehow already prepared. "We took a chance on the ones no one else wanted." Over the following weeks, Genesis and Jackson discovered what the galaxy's experts had missed. The asymmetrical wings allowed for tighter maneuvers in debris fields. The mismatched eyes perceived different spectrums. Simultaneously one saw heat signatures, the other gravitic distortions, the chaotic scaling pattern. It rendered the hatchling nearly invisible to standard scanning arrays. The dragons weren't flawed, they were different, and different, Genesis knew from personal experience, wasn't a weakness. "The galaxy doesn't understand," Jackson said one evening as they watched the hatchlings practice flight patterns around the ship. The smallest one, the one with asymmetrical wings, executed a barrel roll that would have been impossible for a perfect dragon. Genesis smiled. "They never do. That's kind of our thing." 6 months later, when pirates attacked a convoy near the outer reaches, it was Genesis's ship that responded. The 3 dragons, now adolescents, moved through space like nothing the raiders had ever seen. One vanished from sensors entirely, another spotted their hidden ships through asteroid cover. The third outmaneuvered their interceptors with impossible grace. The convoy was saved. News spread. Within a year, the Galactic Dragon Registry quietly updated its definition of suitable traits. Within 2, geneticists were studying what they now called adaptive variants. Within 5, the empire that had once disposed of different hatchlings, was begging humanity for training programs. But Genesis and Jackson never forgot that day in the auction hall. They'd built a sanctuary on the edge of human space, a place for the flawed, the broken, the unwanted. Dragons came from across the galaxy now, the ones rejected by others, the ones who didn't fit the mold, and every single one found their purpose. Because humans understood something the rest of the galaxy was still learning. There's no such thing as a mistake, only potential waiting for someone brave enough to see it. As Genesis watched her 3 dragons, now fully grown and bonded, navigate the cosmos with impossible beauty, she thought about that whisper in the auction hall. I'll take them, 3 words, 1 choice, 1,000,000 possibilities. That was the human way. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most advanced, just the one stubborn enough to believe that everyone deserves a chance, even especially the flawed ones.